Setting yourself some running goals is not so much about reaching the destination, but it's about the journey. It's about the process. It's about what will drive you to grow to achieve this goal. And there are, in my mind, good goals and bad goals. Good goals will be on the fringe of, wow, this is crazy. I don't think I can do that. This is insane. But you will get there. But to reach that, you'll need to work hard. And that's the beauty of these goals, is that you will improve, and that's really why you set these goals. But you also have bad goals. Goals that would not support your growth, that are not inspiring, that even maybe would be too ambitious and could lead to injuries. So today what I want to do is help you think about some good running goals for 2024. What is realistic in terms of next step for you based on where you are today? So for example, is it realistic for you to run 100 miles next year, or maybe you should do that next year? Hi, Simon here. It's 2024. Happy New Year. So brand new year, brand new me, and that means new running goals. I'm not big on a New Year's resolution. In fact, when I decided to run 100 miles every month, it was probably in March or April. So really, I don't really care about the 1st of January, but I know that a lot of people do that around this time. So I felt it would be a good time for me to help you think through running goals that would help you grow next year. And just to be clear, I'm not here to tell you or to be judgmental about what goals or types of goal you're looking into, but just help you really think about them and think about setting goals that are measurable and that you will be growing from that. But whatever your goals are, I'm not gonna judge that. What I'm gonna do with every other video I have is provide you the tools to reach that goal. This is what this is about. Those goals are to grow, and setting something that is realistic but ambitious is the perfect way actually to improve and also to see this improvement. So the first question is, why should we have running goals? Even myself, I would say I'm not big on like I said, New Year's resolution. The goals that I try to set are something that will be more sustainable, something that I'm here today and I'm gonna set myself a goal that is here and I'm gonna reach that. And this is what I think is a good goal, and that it's a year goal or it's 3 years goal, 5-year goal. That doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it's a goal and it's a direction, and I take enough time to reach that. But the reason for goals that it's important is, I think the big one for me is that a very well-defined goal is something that will inspire me. It's much easier for me to go running, train 2 hours a day, these difficult run in the heat, if I have a specific goal in mind. I'm running, last year I'm running bad water. I don't like spending 40 minutes in the sauna and sweating my ass off. I wouldn't do it just for funsies. But my goal, which was difficult, was to complete bad water, which I did. And to reach that goal, I had to do these steps that are a little uncomfortable, that are a little bit unpleasant. Having something concrete to work towards really helped me justify it when I'm in the red, when I'm just in pain, especially in training. Just reminding me of, there is this goal that I want to achieve, and that's driving me, that's inspiring me. The other reason goals are important, and I suggest that you track it down, and if you want to be even better about it, is to tell other people, even potentially you can leave it in the comments below, what is your goal for 2024, is accountability and traceability. If you set to yourself some very defined goal, I want to qualify for Boston Marathon, that is something very concrete. And if you can tell people around you, that will hold you accountable for it, and that's something that you can easily measure. Am I progressing towards my goal or not? And the last reason I think goal setting are important, both short, mid, and long-term goals, is to have a roadmap towards improvement. Especially having these shorter goals that are closer to you, it will provide you, okay, how do I reach, let's say for me, running Tour des Géants would be a very high goal. But to do that, maybe I need to run 100 miles first, and to do that, maybe I run a 50 mile. And setting these goals will actually be a way to reach that gradually. And that's where a time frame of 1 year is actually pretty interesting in terms of midterm goal. But it's not a 20-year goal that really, that's just something that is too big to really comprehend. It's the concept, of how do you eat an elephant, and it's one bite at a time. And these concrete goals are concrete steps towards, well, eating an elephant. But if you're vegan, I'm sure there is an equivalent to it, but I'm not sure what it is. Before setting goals, I think what's important is to have a vision of the future, or you could call it setting yourself a mission or a purpose. And what that would be in running, it's usually it's these more kind of intangible things, but that's a reason why you're doing all of that. So for example, for me, maybe my, for example, the channel, my purpose is to help other, but that's not really a specific goal. How do you measure that? And that's where we would go into goals. But in terms of running, it's to enjoy nature, spend time with my wife and friends. It's about being fit and healthy. So these are purpose that you should try to define. Why do you run? What's the purpose behind that? Is it to meet people? Is it to get fit? Is it maybe to be healthier, maybe to lose some weight? And I don't think anything I'll say here will be revolutionary or anything like that. The most important, what I really want you to do right now, is sit down and take the time to make these goals. Take the time to write them down. Take the time to define what will be good goals that will support your growth and inspire you. And you need to sit down and write that down. So a mission is important to set goals, and these goals will support that mission. And that's where the mission is important, this kind of value statement that you have. But the goals need to be much more defined. They need to be defined in time and defined and measurable in terms of what you're going to achieve. So, for example, a goal that would be very vague would be to qualify someday for Boston Marathon. I mean, at least the scope is defined. It's qualifying for Boston Marathon. But one day, it's kind of vague. So if you would say qualify for Boston Marathon this year or in the next 3 years, that's a very defined goal. That's something that's measurable. You'll be able in 1 year to say yay or nay, did you achieve that? Being happy on trail is great, and that's a great mission, but how do you measure that? And that one would be tricky. But being healthier, for example, if you are running partly to lose weight, you can set yourself some weight goals, and that is something that you can trace, and it's much more defined, and you can say I would want to weigh this much by this time. And even better is if you're able to track towards this success. Tracking progress towards following that training plan is a way to have accountability and guidance on a closer to day-to-day or week-to-week basis, as opposed to it's going to be a yay or nay in December if you met your goal. Though something that is traceable will help you stay motivated. It will help you go outside even though it's snowing. You know, maybe not here, maybe raining here at worst. Realistically, cloudy would be the worst weather that we have here. But to get out the door anyway, because you want to track towards your progress. It's not some vague things that you're going to achieve potentially in 1 year. It's something that there are milestones towards that. So a good goal will include some milestone, and you can track towards that, because you'll be able to adjust your training or your running so that you can meet that final goal at the end. For me, very often the goals will be either specific race that I want to do and specific things that I want or don't want to do. So for example, I'll have a racing calendar for 2024, and this video is already too long, so I cannot disclose the full thing. But I have specific goals that are my A race. These are my important goals, the must do, and I have some B race that's gonna be fun. But if for whatever reason my B race would put in jeopardy my A race, I will skip them. You cannot have higher priority on everything. But also, a goal that I have every year is I don't want to have any DNF that are because of injuries. So I'm totally cool dropping a race to prevent injuries. So I want to be able to stop before that. That's very important for me, because otherwise the rest of the year is kind of in the trash. And I don't care so much about racing, but I care a lot about being able to enjoy trails. And if I hurt myself, that goes against my overall mission, which we said, which is to have nice adventure with my wife and with friends. It's not about winning race, finishing race. I mean, that's part of it, but just being able to enjoy trails is important. So this specific goal of no injury, it's a little bit more vague than most goals, but at least it's defined in time, 1 year, no injuries, and I'll be able to say yay or nay if I did that. the step up to a new distance is maybe where you are today in terms of planification. Is I want to run my first 50K, my first trail marathon, my first 100K. And then you will look into different race and what is really good for you. So that's also, I think, a very beautiful goal, and as soon as possible. And I think you've probably seen that I do take the time to respond to comments as much as possible. And sometimes people will say, you know, I'm planning to race my first 50 mile next year. And that's great. And I'm always curious to know what is it, because I think once you define what's the race, then you have a more concrete direction as to where you're going. First, because I mean, you have something to think about, but also it's a specific date, and now you can count the weeks and build your training schedule, which again, I have a video about how to build that. But once you have the distance, then find yourself a race as soon as possible. Are you ready though for the next distance? That is tricky. That is really tricky. It depends where you are today. And I think in ultra running, I wouldn't call it necessarily a toxic mindset, but an obsessive mindset as to you should always increase distance, which personally I think it's unfortunate. If you like the distance you're doing, you should really just keep doing that. But you can always increase. But what you need to be careful is not to increase too quickly, because it is realistic to... There's plane also today. So it is realistic to increase distance fairly quickly. So personally, I went from running a trail marathon to running 100 mile in about 6 months. But I would not recommend that, because that will only work if you don't get injured. And it shouldn't be a race to get there. I think stepping up one distance per year, or 6 months if you have, you know, I live in Southern California, so it's year round, but stepping up distance every 6 months to a year is a very realistic progression. From going from a 50 mile to 100K, there's definitely things that you need to learn. It's not simply, you know, 12 more miles, like, no, it's just 12 miles. It's not just that. I'm planning to increase distance this year, so it's my year to do that, and I'm gonna go into the 200 mile realm. I already signed up for one of them, and yes, I'm gonna disclose my full schedule very soon. There's still things in the process, but I'm most likely gonna run Cocodona 250 this year, so I'll see you there. And apologies, I mean, there's a lot of cars today. That's, you know, I do this for fun. I don't have a studio, maybe eventually, but I try to film when there's not as much car, but it's tricky, so apologies for that. Personally, I love the goals that are a specific race, and what I like about that is that it's setting you a very specific date by which time you need to be ready for a certain distance, a certain race. It's also something that is very concrete in terms of being inspired. Wow, Leadville 100, this is such a cool race, this is my goal. And you'll be thinking about something concrete when you go on your long runs, when you go on your hill training. You know, I have videos about these, which, you know, have a look. And that's something that is very good to inspire you and to grow. So finding this really good race is a great way to have a beautiful goal for 2024. If you need help finding race, you can look at this video where I discuss a little bit what I look into race, but also I provide what are my top 5 100 mile in the US. But there are other goals that are extremely common, and I think there's some advantage and disadvantage to them. One is the yearly mileage goal. So for example, people will say, I want to run 2024 miles in 2024. And if you're smart, you do it in kilometers, so it's 2024 kilometer, which is a little shorter. I think that's an interesting goal, because that's a goal that is not a fixed, you know, it's not a one-day thing, but it's rather a reflection of how much work you put into running into the whole year. And there's no cheating that. There's no cheating a large mileage goal for the year. You'll need to put the work in every month, and that's a great way to be consistent in your training. I think my problem with that is that it's a little bit vague, and I don't know that it's necessarily as directed towards you improving as a runner, but it does have benefit, which is about consistency. And what's a good mileage that you can do for a year? The easiest way to do that, if you've already been running consistently in the past few years, is to look at what you've done, and then either you want to improve that or stay steady. But that's kind of me cheating on like how to help you find the right number of miles. But for context, I run probably 3,000 to 3,500 miles a year, which is a fair amount. But one of the reasons it's not higher is that I definitely have a lot of weeks that are tapering, because I'm racing every 3 weeks. So that's easily 12 to 15 weeks that I'm barely running, and similarly after a race I'm usually banged up a little bit, so I'm running less. I think if I didn't do that, probably I would be around 4,000, but I'm someone who runs a lot and that takes a lot of time. So it really depends how busy you are in your life and what you're already able to do. I think even a 2,000 mile is pretty high actually. Just be careful about not overdoing it, because setting yourself some chronic high mileage goal is a danger to injury if your body is not used to that. The other common goal that I see that personally I'm not a big fan of, but it's a beautiful goal. Like I said, I will encourage you in whatever goal you have that will help you grow, and it's the run streak. So the run streak typically is defined by you run at least 1 mile every day, no matter what. And what's good about a goal like that is, again, it's the consistency of, well, you go out there every day. And I think what's nice about that is also that every day you will have some me time. This is the time that I take for myself. This is my running. This is time to just for mental health. It's very beneficial. You just decompress. You know, some people will watch TV. Well, instead you just go for a 1 mile run. So in that sense, I think that's a beautiful goal. I think the danger with the running streak is more, well, first, it's, again, for me, it's not so concrete that it won't necessarily inspire me until it would be a very long running streak. So once you're in the, like, I have a 5 years running streak, like, that's great, but that's where I see a trap, is that some of the run eventually will only exist because of the running streak. Like, you don't want to kill your 20-year running streak because you're just not in the mood. So obviously you'll go if you're just not in the mood, but what if you have an injury? Injuries running are pretty common. I have at least one injury a year. Sometimes they're mild, but one of the reasons they stay mild is that I'm able to say, no, I'm not running. I'm not running injured. Sure, it's just 1 mile. It's not a big deal. I'm not running fast, but why? There's no physical or fitness benefit to it other than plain. Alright, so one of my struggle with the run streak, which again, if you're having a run streak, you know, let us know. I think that is very impressive. I don't have the mental stamina for that. But one of the danger is that some of the run will actually eventually only exist to keep the streak alive, which I find dangerous, first for injuries, or what about things that I think should be more important than running? You twisted your ankle, you might still go, and there are some people online that brag about that brag that they have their streak, and yeah, I mean, they were sick, they had the flu, but they still went anyway. Why? That 1 mile run where you have a twisted ankle and it's super big and it's purple, you're hurting yourself. You're definitely not getting fitter by doing a 1 mile, you know, in 20-minute run. So why? And the why is only because of the running streak. So it's kind of a trap that I don't want to be stuck in there. Also, I think that rest is extremely important, and I think you need to have rest days. Sure, a 1 mile day is basically rest, but then why not just rest? But again, I understand the concept, and I'm not here to say do it or don't do it. Just be careful with it. Like, don't get injured from that. But the consistency and having time for yourself is something that is beautiful. I think something that for me would speak to me more would be like to define, or it wouldn't be a run streak, but it would be like, I need to run 6 days a week, except if I'm injured, you know, like kind of putting a like exception clause. And sure, I cannot go on, you know, on the runstreak.com, if that's a website, which potentially it is, and say that I have a run streak. But at least it's bringing me closer to what I want, which is having consistency in my training.
Last time we're at the safety.
There's a fair amount of people that start running to lose weight, or there are people that want to lose weight to improve their running. And there are some people that just don't really do that. I have actually lost weight running deliberately, so I've always been fairly slim, but I have tried to lower my weight a little bit and successfully lowered my weight a little bit to help on my running, because it's a little bit milder on joint. So you can set yourself some weight goals. I think that's a beautiful goal, especially if that's why you're running. The thing that you'll need to be careful with that is that it's extremely tricky to balance being in a calorie deficit to be able to lose weight, but still fueling properly to have proper workout and avoiding risk of injury. So when I was losing weight to kind of get into a range, that was very difficult, and my training was not as good, but I knew that, and I deliberately didn't push as much. So I didn't have as many speed workout, for example. My mileage was not quite as crazy, and I was definitely not increasing mileage at the same time. Of course, in my case, I was looking to lose about, I think it was 10 pounds back then, so it's not, you know, it's not, we're not talking like 200 pounds, we're talking a fairly small difference, but I was deliberately cutting my calories to a point that was a reasonable weight loss. And I think I'm gonna make a video about how to use running to lose weight, because I think that's an important topic, and I think there's a lot of myth out there that I would want to dispel. But just so you know, I think that is actually a very beautiful goal. But please be careful and remember that it is very tricky to be in calorie deficit and working out very hard. You'll definitely be hungry all the time, and you're going to be a little bit more prone to injury, so please watch out. Yeah. Finally, some of the goals that myself I don't really do, but I think are pretty cool too, are more speed related, or you know, qualifying for Boston would mean finishing a marathon under a certain time, or maybe you've run 100 mile before, but now you wonder, can I run a sub 24 100 mile? And I rarely do that, but sometimes I do. So for example, at my Javelina 100 last year, my goal was a sub 24, and that was important to me. Usually my only goal is to finish not injured and have fun, but in this case I wanted a sub 24. Why? Don't ask me why, but that was just really important for me. And when you have these goals, I think that's where serious training needs to come in. These goals are typically much harder, and they're easier to miss. It's easier to miss the boat on a sub 24 if your race doesn't go as planned. So you'll need to really look into all aspects of running. You'll need to choose the right race for that. You'll need to fuel properly. You'll need to be rested for that. You can't race too many races if you want to have a high performance. And that's why for me, I typically don't do that. I race so many races. You know, I run 100 mile every month. So I'm well enough to finish these races and do decently well. But I know that if I had more rest, I would perform much better. And that's a trade-off that I make, where I prefer to have more adventure on trail and accept that I'm gonna go slower, because honestly I don't care, in exchange for speed. But if you prefer speed or being competitive, maybe placing an age group or things like that, it's a beautiful goal. And stick to my channel, because I'm gonna provide a lot of tips that can help you reach this, because these goals are difficult, but I think they are great goals. Alright, so I know this video was about setting goals for you, but to help you, you know, see how I think about these things, let me walk you through a little bit how I'm thinking about 2024. So the first thing is, I always have kind of this mission, this purpose, which is not changing so much, and I actually wrote them down. So I'm committing to them in front of you. This is commitment. You can call me out, absolutely call me out if I don't follow through my mission or my goals. It's public now. So the first one is I want to share quality time with my wife and friends on trails, having exciting adventure. So let's do that. And I want to be healthy and stay fit. And the last one is I want to inspire other people and help them achieve their goal, which is a big reason why this channel exists. But how will I reach that in 2024? What are my specific goals? So I do have a very specific racing calendar in mind. There's a few tweaks that I need to do, and I didn't want to bother this video with disclosing the whole thing today. It's gonna be to race these races. I don't mind if I have DNF in there. What I do mind, and that's my second goal, is to not have any DNF because of injuries. Or I guess another way to say that is to not have major injuries. When you race as many races as I do, there's here and there will be ailment, there will be some problem. I'm getting pretty good at recovery and resting, so it never gets out of control, but that's why I always keep it. My priority is to have fun on trail with my wife, with my friends, seeing nice views, landscape, and not getting injured. And I will drop race like this if it is to not be injured. And although I'm not going to disclose my full schedule this year, there's some exciting stuff coming up very soon. So the first one is Hurt 100 in Hawaii, which is mid-January. So I'm not sure when this video will come out, but there's Black Canyon 100K, which, by the way, Nora is doing too. There's QMT, so Quebec Mega Trail, and potentially Fuji 100. Then the other exciting kind of goal that I have for 2024 is I'm going to run my first 200 mile or 200 plus mile race. Cocodona 250 is the most likely race, but as you can imagine, it's kind of around the same time as Fuji 100, so that could be tricky. But the other race that has always been a goal for me is Tour des Géants. So I'm gonna, of course, put my name in the lottery. If I don't get picked, well, there's Swiss 360, which would be pretty exciting. And I think what I said before, one of my mission is to have fun with my wife on trails and discover new place. Going in the Alps with her would be an absolute dream. So yeah, that's gonna be easy to convince her to crew and pace me, which is how I pick my race sometimes. Gotta be smart about it. So that's gonna be very exciting. Of course, racing so much is a little bit pricey, so usually I try to be a little closer to home. And then the last one about this mission of inspiring others. So of course I'm gonna continue with my channel. I'm gonna continue posting all of my race videos. So that's a specific goal, is to always produce one video for every race that I do. And the other goal is I'm gonna try and make at least 15 how-to video. So I've made quite a few in the past few weeks, but that's because I was not racing. When you combine working pretty hard, training pretty hard, and racing and making videos of these races, it's actually pretty tough to squeeze in the time. But I'm committing today to make at least 15 other how-to videos. Some are always a little bit more general, like I said, are you ready for the next distance? But videos that I have in mind that are coming soon, that are a little bit more vague, would be what are the benefits to running. For example, what are the danger of running so much? But I'm also going to make some videos that are much more specific, for example, how to use poles properly. And so that's it. These are my goals for 2024. My question to you is, what are your goals for 2024? Put it in the comments below. That's a great way to commit, so that in 1 year you can look back and say, oh, I said that. And hopefully the goals that you pick will inspire you. They will be a little scary, but not impossible. And they will force you, or even better, drive you to work on yourself, work on your running, improve, and be a better runner. So as always, thanks for watching. Appreciate if you leave a thumbs up, and see you next time.